Season 2 of the Pat and JT podcast.
Oh man, I'm here at last. The best time, always gonna be the best. Come on!
Exclusively on the Hurrdat Media Network.
On Twitter, it's Pat and JT or Hurrdat Media. You can find us there too. It's Pat and JT. That other JT. Pat is a boy. I haven't gone through our Twitter handles in a minute. Like our individual ones, but you can find us there, or 402-403-9478. Always text us if you want.
Hurrdatmedia.com is where all the podcasts live that are on our network, which is really cool.
That's right.
And Rhianna's back in the studio. Hello. You like our new headgear?
I love it.
It's so fun.
I feel like I'm,
ready to go call a football game?
Yes. I was actually a journalism major and wrote for the Omaha World Herald for a minute.
Yes.
And I wanted to do this when I grew up. That and be a homicide detective.
And
I did none of the above. I'm an energy healer now. So
yeah, well.
It's almost the exact opposite.
But I love it, right?
If you had to list something that was the exact opposite.
It's awesome.
Well, maybe we can find a piece of footage of a game or something. You can call it.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
That'd be super fun.
Yeah, the whole homicide detective thing. It's funny, is if there had been CSI on TV when I was a kid, I so would have been CSI.
Yeah.
Really? You would have?
Exactly.
Oh. But there was
in a heartbeat. No.
Trapper John and Quincy.
Yeah. Quincy MD.
Uh-huh.
But they were all old white guys, that were doing those things. Like Trapper John, well, he had Gonzo. Was it Gonzo? His adorable
Gonzo's Trapper, yeah.
And then
Quincy had not Higgins. That was Magnum PI.
Oh, yeah, that's Magnum.
Who'd Quincy have? He always had every hot chick on his sailboat. I'll Google Quincy's
he didn't
partner.
deserve it, did he? But he was a funny guy. He had great personality. That's the thing.
I grew up reading all the Nancy Drew books, and so I wanted
that
to be
too.
her.
I know, and like investigations, but I didn't go that far with it to think I could do that. That's something you could do.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh yeah. I was going to be a cop. Then my ex-husband didn't want me to be a cop. He thought that was the whole being alone in a car with a man all night. He thought that was, my partner. He thought that was weird. And, but I actually do. So, I can't even watch the news now without crying. So how the hell am I going to be a homicide detective? But I do apply that same skill set. And I actually work on missing persons case now. And I walked in.
So you're kind of a detective?
I kind of am. I do it. And it's just now if the Omaha Police Department would contact me.
Just going to throw that out there.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Just say it can't hurt,
because we're not supposed to contact them, I guess. It looks a little bit weird. And then when I did call just to ask, so how does that work? They do use them. The police departments all over the world use psychics, but they don't talk about it because
I think there's a few.
Upon.
Yeah, there's a few that are very vocal about how absurd. But it's like if it works, who cares?
Right, you find the person or you figure out
who
who did it. Who cares?
Like they say, even if you don't believe, if somebody else does believe, and it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, if they believe, then it's real.
Yeah. Well,
that's all
the
that matters.
Is we can tap into energy. Everything is energy, and people have energy signatures. Pets have energy signatures. And I walked in here I found a cat. I mean, I literally did. I found a cat.
You're the queen of random comments. I found a cat in Pennsylvania. And that's actually going to be the name of our podcast. I'm not going to write it down. Help me remember that. Okay. I found a cat in Pennsylvania.
That's
it.
That's it.
Yeah. So a friend of mine who lives in Pennsylvania reached out to me and she said, "Hey, Rhianna, I know you have found missing kids, and I have worked in the astral to find missing kids in tunnels. So the whole trafficking is very close to my heart for multiple reasons." And she's like, "I know you found missing kids before. Can you find a missing cat?" I'm like, "I don't know. Let's try it." And so I got a picture of the cat and I got her name and I channeled in. And I could describe where she was. I knew there was a forest not too far from the house. And I could tell that there was this tall tree and this limb had fallen. And she was under the limb. It created just enough space. And I asked her, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I know I'm close to home. I don't know how far I am."
That's the cat?
Home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was the cat. And so she said that, well, I could tell that she was close to home, but it was dark and she kept looking up and I thought there was like a bird or something above her freaking her out. And I relayed it to the owner and she said, "Oh yeah, there was fireworks," and that would explain why she kept looking up and looking frightened. So she was too frightened to actually move in the dark. And I said, "Okay, I can see a deer. A deer is snuggling with her, going to snuggle with her and keep her warm." So my friend went outside I said, put her litter box outside so she can smell which way she's going. And then
That's a good idea.
my friend said, she said, I went outside and a little deer, just like you described, came to the edge of the forest, looked me straight in the face, and then walks back away. And I was like,
No
okay,
way.
swear
That
to
is
God,
incredible.
I can screenshot it out, the whole conversation. And so
I
then
expect you to say, came to the edge of the forest, looked me in the eye and said, she's over here.
that would be even better.
I
Follow
know
me. But it was dark and it was, they weren't
I
going into the
know.
dark. But
Oh,
I would never follow a talking deer into a forest. I'm just saying, I don't care who's missing.
Obviously, somebody laced your tea.
Somebody did. I'm dumb. I'm not the smartest tool in the shed,
so clearly it's all telepathic conversation, right?
That's awesome. Though. That is so cool, though.
So then the next morning she wasn't back on the porch yet. So I channeled back in. And the cat said, I said, your owner is worried about you. And she's like, I know. She knows. Death of the ego. And I was like, okay. I had no idea what that meant. And then I could see that she had moved and I could describe, she's under a slatted porch. And she's like, well, that's not our porch. It's concrete. And I was like, well, go find her. She's very close to home. And she went to the next door neighbors. And sure enough, she was under the porch and she got her. And
oh my gosh.
yeah, it was
that's pretty awesome.
Oh.
So I'm just practicing. And death of the ego was my friend is very anti asking for help. She always feels bad and she doesn't help. And so the cat, I personally believe the cat ran away to teach my friend to ask for help, that it's okay, that people will help you and it's not a burden.
You can ask.
And there are so many, every single experience in our life is not just victim and things are happening to you. It's to teach you and to get you out of your comfort zone and to expand you and grow you. And that was her opportunity.
That's cool. That's
Oh my
awesome.
gosh.
The
Yeah.
cat's back.
Yes.
Yeah, the
I
cat's
love
back.
that. Do you know
Yeah.
the cat's name?
Yeah, it was Gigi.
Aw.
She was so cute too.
It's so cool.
Do you ever see this friend in person? Have you seen Gigi before in person?
No, I've never met. She's just a Facebook friend. You know how that is.
yeah,
and
yeah.
We've never met in person. So.
Okay, well, that's cool. That's even better.
Wow.
That's even more impressive that
Yeah.
you don't have like the history with this person as like a friend that you've known forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's
I
cool.
just seen the picture of Gigi when she sent it and I'm just practicing my skills, and there's I had somebody ask me to find a missing man. He'd gone camping and he checked in every single night with his wife and he's been doing this for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew he was near the Wisconsin-Minnesota border before they told me where he was. I could describe his white truck. And this was super trippy. And I've talked to a couple other psychics that are doing this kind of work. But he showed me this entire scenario where he had passed away. And somebody had startled him, and then his credit card had been used, and he showed me this whole scenario. And then after, because I never want to tell somebody they're dead, and they're not dead, right? So I asked no less than 8 times, "Are you sure this is the truth?" And I'm like, "Am I supposed to tell them?" And it was all yes. So I told her, and then 5 minutes later he called, and he was fine and well, but he was near the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. He did have a white truck. And he had used his credit card at the gas station where I'd seen something else
That is
play
pretty
out.
trippy.
And so when I asked because I was mortified, I was like,
Yeah.
I have no business doing this,
Well, that's a huge. I mean, that's
it was
a
huge.
big deal.
It was
is.
a big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
And thank God it was somebody that understood energy. And I reached out to a couple other psychics that do this kind of work. And they said, Rhianna, right now the timelines are converging into one, which means all of the possible scenarios are kind of melting into here and now. And so you absolutely did see a timeline, but is it this timeline?
Right.
And it was a great lesson for me because then when I asked about the cat, I was like, I want to see this timeline.
Right.
The only timeline I want to see.
Because you're not dealing they don't like just the cat is talking in riddles and like when you're using energy, they don't come out and say, here's A, here's B, here's C. You have to figure stuff out, which I've never understood that. Psychic Andy was the
symbolism
same
thing?
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where in Tyler Henry on TV, whatever, will say, I see a blue something and that means this. I don't understand how the symbolism seems universal for everybody.
Instead of just using the words.
Right.
Yeah, some of the symbolism is universal, but a lot of the mediums will tell you that they tell spirit what that symbol means to them. So if you want to tell me you love, you'd show me a rose. I don't work with spirit directly, but I do work in the energy. And so it is translating what that means. You know what I mean?
So does that go into like our dream world? Because everybody, when you have dreams, there are some universal dreams everybody has, or, naked in front of a bunch of people, or losing your teeth, or, things like that. And then you've got people who have figured out what those supposedly represent. And it makes sense. I'm like, okay, but I'm me talking to me in my head. Can you just say it?
Yeah.
Right.
I have to see me with my teeth falling out. Like I bit off more than I could chew, or something,
Right.
whatever that means, or something. Just tell me you bit off more than you can chew.
Right. I've said that before. I think it's with you. I'd rather have a debriefing at night where I sit in like a brain conference room and I have whoever talk to me. I'm like, here's the deal. These are the things you need to fix and work on.
Yeah.
Let's
I
go.
wonder if some of that's involved with the free will, though, because this is a free will universe.
That's
so there are plenty of times where I'm like, just tell me, like, seriously, just as plain as you can tell me. But I think sometimes if you aren't ready to hear the truth or know the truth, or to accept that you've bitten off too much, they're going to have to kind of, coax you to the water, and they can't make you drink from it, but they gotta get you there.
They get frustrated if we don't pick up on it, we don't get it.
I think they
like,
will.
dude, they go back to the other angels. They're like, holy, this guy is an absolute sack of hammers. He is so stupid. He is not. I'm literally.
They've been, thumping your forehead, and
Right.
now they're throwing rocks at you.
Right.
Pretty soon they're throwing bricks, and then they push
jamming your head in the river so you drink.
There's a
Dude.
meme out there with like a guardian angel passed out over a bench with a cigarette in one hand and a bottle in the other. It's like, this is
That's
what my
it.
guardian angel looks like after a
Right.
day of messages.
trying so
Come
hard.
on, man.
Yeah, I think they do get, they have no ego, so it's really our journey. They're just here to guide us. So, whatever
Yeah.
you want to do, man, but they're guiding us. But they will speak louder and louder and louder to the point where they eventually will force your hand if it's something really important. Like, let's say you agreed before you got here to experience XYZ, and you're over here being really busy and not paying attention to that, even though you're getting these little pings. All of our soul contracts will ping us like, oh, I'm supposed to go over here, and I'm supposed to do that, and I'm supposed to talk to that person. And if
soul
you're,
contract, I like that term.
yeah, we can talk about that more too, because that's coming up for a lot of people. But if you ignore it, they
Expiring?
will.
Wait, what?
Oh,
Okay.
no.
They will.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's not what he said. They will kind of twist your arm and force things. So for an example, I don't know if I shared this before or not, but I had a client who was supposed to quit her job and she kept ignoring it.
Oh,
And
you did
so
tell us this.
Spirit
Yes.
broke her garage door opener, and she literally
Yes.
couldn't get out
That's
of her house.
incredible.
Yeah, and then she sprained her ankle. I'm like, please don't make them force your hand anymore.
right.
Please stop it. Please
Once
listen.
I bleed, I'm done.
Right. I quit.
But it's interesting when you think about that. And for a lot of people that maybe, like we said, the awakening, right, of understanding these other things that are going on. When you felt that urge to move to another state, even in high school, and because some kids decided they're going to go to school in the community college and they're not leaving home, and others, I couldn't wait. I was moving and I knew exactly where I was going to move. And it was like, that was it. It was done.
I was the same way. I
And-
played softball, and I only would look at schools on the East Coast.
See, isn't that? It's
Yeah.
just like you knew that's where you had to go, and then when it was done, I knew it was time to come back, and it wasn't time to go somewhere else. It was time to come back, which was so weird.
That's 100% a soul contract.
But that's you're just following your gut, which would be another way of saying it. And that's the old not old wives' tale, but that's the
Catch-22.
old saying that they would use. The old saying being, you trust your
follow
gut,
Yeah.
right?
But, in the energetic spiritual world, before we incarnated, we have agreed to certain experiences. And then we got other people involved in our play, and they're like, okay, so these are the lessons I want to learn, right? I know for me this lifetime, it's learning forgiveness, and it's learning self-love. And so then God's like, okay, who loves Rhianna so much they'll teach her self-love or forgiveness? And somebody's like, okay, I will. So if I'm going to learn forgiveness, what does that mean? They have to completely screw me over,
They have
right?
to hose you, yeah.
They have to hose me.
Yeah.
And then I get to learn the experience. And so if we can look at all of the things that have ever happened to us, and our life experiences will be a repeating theme. there's a couple themes in your life that are repeating over and over and over again. And until you get the lesson, they're going to continue to repeat with a different person playing the part. But once you learn, I have to learn forgiveness. Okay, so my uncle played his part perfectly. Thank you, uncle, for playing out the part that we pre-agreed to, right?
Wow.
And you can do that with everybody, and it just takes the edge off everything. It's not personal anymore. I wasn't personally attacked. It was, we agreed to this. And then people are like, well, who the hell would agree to what you just agreed to with your uncle, right? Like, I would never agree to that. But when we're in perfectness, when we're in heaven or 0 point, whatever you want to call it, being a human is how our soul grows, and it's how we evolve as a soul. And if we're infinite and we never die, these life lessons are just kind of filling time, right? Like we're growing and we're filling the time. And so when we're in perfectness, nothing seems that bad. And so then you incarnate and you experience it. And as soon as you recognize the patterns of the life lessons and you can just own it for what it is rather than looking at it as a victim mode, those lessons tend to stop. Like the universe has really stopped handing me reasons to learn forgiveness because I recognized it for what it was and just thanked them for playing the part that I agreed to.
It's done and that's over with.
It's interesting.
It is. I mean, because that kind of explains to a degree when people feel familiar with the situation. You're not supposed to remember, but you realize I've been here before.
Yeah.
This is how, and I used to get that a lot. Not so much anymore. It seems
or just we've agreed to this, and so we're playing out the part. Or even just random people that pop into your life. Like they could have 20 seconds in your life, but you agreed to it. They were going to deliver this one message at the right time. And a lot of people who are, like our emotional ways are our GPS system. So if you're always feeling negative or angry or grumpy or edgy or anxious, that is your internal GPS system saying it's time, like when GPS is like, turn around at the, at the next stop, turn around. That is our GPS system telling us we're off course or we're not doing something we agreed to. So if you keep getting this ping, like you need to say this to somebody or you need to do something, you agreed to that contract and you are responsible for showing up for that person so that they can learn the lessons that they needed to.
So what happens if, for example, like you use the uncle thing, say you are in a situation where your uncle's supposed to come back and do a specific thing to you, for you, whatever, to teach you a lesson, but due to circumstances, he makes a bad decision and is like dead, dies or whatever. And then you're left there without having that person in your life to help teach you that lesson that he had signed this contract for. Does somebody else move into that position, or do you go to the next lifetime needing to be taught that?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never thought about that. I would just assume that they would fill in with the next person that would teach you the lesson, unless on a subconscious level you're like, it's okay, we'll go to the next lifetime and learn that then. So I think we work out a lot of things in dream time and astral traveling. And I think there's a lot of conversations. Like I know somebody, and I know I've experienced this before. I know somebody who kept saying, I just want to die, like make it stop. And you're not supposed to be aware of this. It's like the black Men in Black, the little blinky thing. And they have that kind of basic technology for us. So they would, in the astral, have a conversation. Okay, here's an exit point for you. Do you mean it? And she could remember she could feel her body dying.
Wow.
And she immediately chose no. And then she came back into the body, and she's not supposed to remember the conversation, but she did. And I think a lot of us do this regularly. We check in. How's it going? What else do we want to learn?
People who have near-death experiences remember things. Some do, some don't. You know what I mean? It's like
they can choose to come back if they want.
Right. And it's uncanny how similar the experiences are that people have that have those near-death experiences, and just hearing their stories, it's like it's the same story over and over. It's like, how can that be? How can that be that it's the same story? And they come back with that. I love, there was a podcast I was listening to of somebody who had that experience and said that fear of dying is gone. And now I can get on with living.
Yeah.
That was holding them back before, was fear of dying. And
now they know it's no big deal,
right? Yeah, averting risk and just like playing it safe all the time. And I've
never had a fear of death, just because I think I've always sensed that this is the upside down. This is hell. I want to go back. I want to go back to where it's perfect. I'm
There you go.
serious.
Yeah.
Like, so,
Yeah.
so I've never had that. My fear is I imagine my kids exiting early and I have to uncreate and destroy all that energy. Like I think because my daughter, Victoria, has been killed in a past life because of my decisions, I am healing through the guilt. And so I'm a little bit of a helicopter mom. Like when we're in public, I'm like, I can't see you. I can't touch you. Just because I know what's possible. But yeah, I think people will fill in if that is a life lesson that you agreed to. And even in the astral, you're like, okay, your uncle exited early. Here's XYZ. They'll fill in the role if you want. And you're like, sure. Or no, it's fine. I think we work out a lot of that stuff. And even in this lifetime, we can still uncreate and destroy a lot of the decisions so for instance, I came into this life with the agreement that I would honor past vows of poverty and suffering. And then I got to the point where it's like, I've suffered enough. So I rescind all of the contracts and agreements to suffering now.
So you can do that?
Absolutely.
If you feel like if you feel like you have learned your lesson, or are you
Yes.
told that you've learned your lesson?
So your conscious mind is going to be different than your higher self or your subconscious mind. So your conscious mind might be like, I am totally done. And your higher self's like, yeah, really not yet done. So yes, make the decision. And if it is really like you have learned the lesson, it'll end. Yeah. So I'm constantly telling people to rescind all the agreements and let go of the energy that they've absorbed. And we can control so much, and people just don't realize how much you can power they actually have.
Truth. I mean, right now, a lot of people are very anxious. And we were talking about, you mentioned Mercury in retrograde.
Oh God, it's again?
It ends on election day, I believe, November 3rd.
But there's still a shadow period.
there's still wafting in the air.
Dang it.
But it's interesting because some people I follow that kind of, they're of your ilk, so to speak, right? They're the same type of thinkers, and I enjoy seeing their conversations. And there's some people popping in saying, I feel so anxious, and I don't know why. I'm just like, I'm so anxious. So, well, that's where I learned about the Mercury in retrograde is ending on November 3rd. I'm like, what? You got to be kidding me.
That is pretty crazy.
2020, just stop. I mean, it's just crazy.
Well, a lot of the anxiousness right now too, and I just posted this on my Facebook pages, a lot of those old timelines and the old ways of being are falling away, and people they don't know what they're feeling, but they're mourning the change. They're mourning the loss, even though it really is a good thing. They're mourning that. And I've had a couple people reach out this week with really dark feelings and emotions, to the point where I was like, you probably need to call somebody that's professional. What it is, it's just so, everything that is falling away and shifting is so heavy.
All that we knew is not true. That's what people
100%.
are slowly realizing. We aren't going to go. It's like the way ignorance is bliss kind of thing. It's like the way it used to be. It's like, well, it's not going to go.
That's a weird feeling to think that the way we knew it a year ago or 5 years ago, it's gone.
The way we grew up isn't going to happen anymore.
And it's a good thing. I mean, we are finally shifting into what is going to be full of cures and everything that we've ever imagined heaven on earth being. We're getting there. But the old has to die, and the collective is feeling that mourning. So I just encourage anybody that if you are feeling the heaviness or having dark thoughts, you incarnated at this time. You wanted a front seat in the roller coaster. I promise you. And you chose this because it is the most exciting time on the planet's history, and you are strong enough to get through it. But just continue to do things that will make you feel better. Like, tell your body to let go of all the energy you've absorbed, because you are feeling the collective. We're mourning as an entire group.
And the thing is, I think a lot of people don't realize that it's worldwide. I mean, 100%. You see some of the organization and some of the marches and some of the I don't even know, they're not protests, but they're just people that are coming together.
Rallies, freedom rallies.
Yes,
like that.
and it's worldwide, and you see the videos, in countries where it shouldn't be happening, where they should. It's like, oh my God, that's so brave, because they could get literally killed for doing what they're doing. But it's worldwide. It's not just what's going on in this country. There's things happening around the globe.
Yeah, and there's more lockdowns. Like I know Ireland is completely locked down right now, and they can't buy non-essential, which is including tampons and coats, and it's totally
That's
crazy.
insane.
Yeah,
How
but
does that make the virus go away any faster?
well,
You can't have a coat.
it just
you can't have a
shows-
tampon because because that'll make the virus stop.
It's just crazy.
it's just showing what the systems were and what is actually changing. And we have to go through this to get, you have to walk through the mud to get to the other side. But that's what's happening right now. And people are feeling it and they don't understand it. They think it's them or there's something wrong with them or whatever. So I would just really encourage people to get outside as much as you can, take baths. Lavender essential oil is incredibly calming. Do meditations, listen to root chakra music on YouTube. Look at the emotion and ask, is this mine? And if it's not, body, let it go. And if it sticks around, then there's something you need to look at. We're so scared of looking at the emotions. What is this telling me? What do I need to be aware of right now? Right. And we can't shift and go into the new if we are holding on to some of the old ways. Like right now, the universe is hammering me about changing my diet. And I'm just like, okay. And it's just this constant. And it's
I want to break that contract right now.
I know.
I absolve all contracts.
Exactly.
Right.
But they're saying, no, you need,
Yeah.
if you want to stick around, as long as you say you want to stick around, you have to do this. And so, but people are being bombarded with what they need to look at right now. It's repeating over and over in their lives. And then there's a whole bunch of new people waking up. Like I have a family member who is finally putting together that every time their wife has a headache, I talk about the Schumann resonance being off the charts, and they're like, ding, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of people waking up and asking questions. And I think just to remember that you chose to be here, and there are things, you don't have to suffer. There are things, energy healers and meditations you can do at home. And even if you don't want to get into all the woo-woo, just be quiet and just maybe read more. Or, my big one right now is say no. Oh. Too many people are saying yes to frickin' everything. And if it is not a hell yes, it is a hard no. And we have to honor that right now as we change. Our body needs the rest and the quiet, and we have to honor that.
Crazy, because I literally could not sleep at night without the TV on or something on, and it doesn't happen anymore. It's like it's just dead silent in my house. It's like, and it feels so good.
I know, isn't it
and
amazing?
It used to make me absolutely anxious.
Well, because that's before you sage though. Like, because you probably subconsciously were thinking you didn't want to hear people playing freaking cards in your living room. Ghost.
Do you remember when I had the sound? My cat had one of those round toys and had the ball in it, and then he could spin it around in there. And one night I heard that thing. He was playing like crazy, and I woke up. He was on the end of the bed, and that was down. It's at the bottom of the stairs. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's why I wouldn't want to have dead
But
silent
you
in the
can
house.
also-
If that.
No,
But I
you
haven't
can
had
al-
that stuff happen since.
Yeah. You can also direct it. I mean, when I was first waking up, my grandpa, he died when I was like 10, and he would come around and he would turn on lights that had to be like twisted, a lamp twisted to turn on. And he would turn on my kids' toys, like the wind up toys. And I just said, Grandpa, I appreciate you're here and I love you. And thank you for helping me right now.
But I'm good.
But I don't need that. It's freaking me out. And he stopped it. So you get to direct it. But that's the thing. We have so much power and people don't leverage it. They just think they are at the mercy of everything, and it's not. I mean, an example is my sister-in-law recently got a cup from Etsy, and it was a gift from her mom. It was broken when she tried to get the person to fix it and send a new one. The person was clearly, she had not great energy, right? And so the minute my sister-in-law got this cup into her house, she started having anxiety, and she was having headaches, and she was having really bad days. And she intuitively knew it was the cup, but she thought, that's crazy, right? Like a cup can't influence my day this way. And so I saged the cup for her. I saged her room. And then the next day she calls and she's like, well, I feel a lot better, but I'm still scared to drink out of the cup. And I just said, You have to decide, because whatever you decide is true is what is going to show up in your life. So if it's unsafe to drink from that cup and you do it, some shit's going to happen.
Well,
Right.
So decide and live with it.
It takes us right back to the top of the podcast. Whether you believe in it doesn't matter if somebody else does. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if they believe that this is true, that there's that there's a spell on that cup or that whatever, and you're like, that doesn't exist. If you're that person, it doesn't matter what you think because they believe it's true. So it lives in there. And it's kind of like when people get well, if they believe this treatment works for them, whatever it may be.
Like the placebo effect.
Exactly.
Scientifically, that's quantum mechanics. Quantum physics can prove that what you believe, very much like a self-fulfilling prophecy, is going to show up for you.
That's
and then
the
you'll
power.
be like, oh, see, it totally works. But you can do it the other way too. And so what you believe is going to show up for you. And
So back to your point of how much power that
you have a lot
really-
of power.
You
Choose.
generally have.
And I just told her, choose what that cup is going to do for your life. And that's how it'll show
And if
up.
it's causing, was it a cool cup? I mean, because at that point,
Did it have a
if
funny
it's-
saying?
Right. Like at that point, even if you believe it's true, even if people think you're nuts, but you don't like it, it's like deuce out on the cup, man.
So she felt bad because it was a gift from her mom. And I'm just like, okay, so I would have thrown the cup and said, so my intention is my mom never notices the cup isn't there. And bam, story over, problem over. So that's how we can, I mean, it sounds so simple, but that's how we can influence our reality and our choices and the things we experience is really, if you believe it, then you'll see it.
And most people
we
do
have
is-
it backwards.
Most people, yes.
If we see it, we'll believe it. And that is not how this reality works with quantum physics and energy. And you are energy. So you're literally creating your self-fulfilling
Well,
prophecy.
Van Dieb is a big visualization guy. He'll get up before he even gets out of bed in the morning. He visualizes what the good things that are going to happen to him throughout the day. And he's, I mean, look at him, you
Look
know?
at him.
So, and he's
Yeah.
a very positive person. So
Intentional.
visualization works. And also
Yes.
there was a coach. What coach? I don't remember who it was, but visualization for.
Probably Tony Robbins. He does
No,
a lot
no, it
of
was
that.
a
a sports coach.
Yeah, it was a sports coach.
yeah.
It was either a football coach or it was like a boxing coach or something that would go through and you'd have to visualize every single thing
I think it was-
ending up positive for you in that situation. Oh, it was
I remember that.
it was I think it was Dr. Widman talking about Creighton's volleyball team. I
That's
believe.
what it was.
Yeah,
Yes.
that they would go through every single set and they would go through every serve and everything and ending it in a positive way for you, and it completely changed the dynamic of their
Changed
team
the
around.
mindset.
100%.
Because
Yeah.
most people do those things unintentionally during the day. When you do it with intention, you're conscious. Your subconscious handles a lot of things during the day, and it's like, okay, that pretty much determines how things are going to work out. So
Well,
you kinda have to-
90%. I think it's like 90% of what we do and think and every day is on automatic pilot. And so that's why I keep harping on you have to get quiet because you have to realize what that automatic program is. If you hate your life, it is because 90% of it has been pre-programmed. So where are you going to start consciously shifting? And that's what I love about bars is that one of the healing modalities I do, it slows the brain down enough and clears all of the clutter, the outside clutter, so that you can be mid-thought and go,
Hey, wait a minute.
I'm going to turn on a dime because that's not actually the road I want to go down.
Right.
And that's where I think a lot of, I would say 99% of our journey as a human is getting aware of those automatic programs and the beliefs and the thoughts. That's
a great
where the
place.
power is. So.
That's
Yeah.
a great place to wrap this
Yeah,
up.
that's awesome.
This has been really good because I think for a lot of people, just knowing you gave good direction.
Thank you.
do.
That's
You
my
always
goal.
do.
My goal is always to create
You do.
tools, and of course, come see me. But to do tools at home at your there are things you can do every day to thrive. You know,
How do they get a hold of you?
RhiannaMays.com if they want to check out my website and my Etsy store.
Absolutely.
Don't
Thank
buy
you.
that cup from the Etsy store though. It's
Don't.
haunted.
I don't sell the cup.
Oh, was it your cup?
No, it wasn't mine.
Now you need a cup.
Yeah, that's right. This cup ain't haunted, and your logo on the other side. I love it.
That's awesome.
Send to your enemy.
Rhianna, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Pat and JT Podcast, a Hurrdat Media Production.